Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this Cheer State Championship information session. My name is John Skees. I am the Director of Media for TAPS. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, but first I'm going to cover some basic housekeeping items with you before we get into our presentation. First things first, this webinar is being recorded. That recording will be made available to you later today when we're done processing it. It'll be on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/tapsbiz, but we will send you a link to that video to the same address that you used to register for today's webinar. That way you can review this information again if you need to, or share it with anybody on your campus who needs this information. So that recording will be available later today on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/tapsbiz. Second, if you have any questions as we go through today's presentation, please use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar interface. You'll see that little drop-down menu in the GoToWebinar panel. There'll be one that says questions. Type your questions in there. We're going to try to answer them as we go, but if we don't worry about it. There is a brief Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we can play catch-up with any of your questions. But I should say, if we run out of time, or if your question is just too specific, too in the weeds to address appropriately in this venue, and we don't answer it on air, that's okay. Just call us at the office or send us an email, info@taps.biz, as soon as the webinar is over, and we will get your questions answered. Okay, I am joined today in the TAPS office by Brian Bunselmeyer, TAPS Executive Director, Rhonda Smith, our new Director of Fine Arts, Robert Huckabee, TAPS Associate Director and Director of Compliance, and Will Dixon from the TAPS office staff is giving us technical support today. And joining remotely is Chris Henson of Express Cheer, our event partner for this competition. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian to get us started.
Welcome to Cheer 2021. We're glad to be back. We were able to host in the midst of the pandemic, and we're back again this year. So glad to have each and every one of you as a part of the TAPS Championships. In case you haven't got the schedule down, December the 6th is the small schools. December 7th is the large schools. Check your calendar. Make sure you got the bus at the right page at the right time. Again, prior to the event, which would be today, we do need to make sure your rosters are in rank 1. Your picture has been sent to the TAPS office. Make sure you have your entries for your large team, your small stunt groups, your individuals, and your mascots. Remember that those last 3 do have an extra fee involved, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the opportunity. If you don't have your money with you at the contest, we can always bill you once you return to school. So don't feel like you got to run out and get a check right now and make it a hassle. If it's easier for us to bill you, we will do that. We are hosted again by Bell County Expo Center. They've been an excellent host now for the 4th year. Bell County Expo Center in Belton, Texas. We had a couple of questions about where is it going to be. We're going right back to where we've been the last few years. Will, let's slip on over to the map real quick. Let's talk about parking and warm-up. You'll park in that north parking lot. You'll come in the entrance as it's shown here. You'll go ahead and go inside that lobby. That's where you'll register and then move through the registration process into the dome and find your seating. The warm-up is also shown on the map. So parking on the north side. You can park to the south side. There is another entrance you can come in there, so you don't have to park all the way out at the highway if you don't have to. So again, Bell County Expo Center, we were the first event they did coming out of the pandemic, and they're so excited that we're back again. That's a credit to y'all. It's a credit to all of our schools and our students, the way they've behaved and the way they've performed. Bell County loves having us come back. Robert, we've mentioned the pandemic. We are still somewhat in the throes of it. Seems like a new variant comes out every other week, so we're still taking precautions. Walk us through our COVID-19 policies for this year.
You bet. Thank you, Brian. Our COVID policies have been published for this school year since August, and those are available on our website. You can go to those. To summarize it, we won't be as strict as we were last year. We were still in the throes of the pandemic. This was, as Brian mentioned, their first event they hosted. Face masks were required, those kind of things last year. That is not a TAPS requirement. Our policies are published there on our website. Social distancing is still encouraged. As you come and set up your team area, we ask that you kind of stay in that area, set up there, and have a little distance between you and the other teams. But other than that, face masks are not required. We do ask that you follow your own school policies. If you have a school policy that requires you to wear face masks when you're at an event or even during competition, that is allowed, but not required by TAPS. So that's up to you. And also for our fans, face mask will not be required at the facility. That is not a requirement that they have this year.
We've also made the judges aware of that, and they will be made aware again that if you do have to wear a mask in order to compete, they will obviously have that opportunity to know that in advance and take that into consideration. Rhonda, tell us a little bit about what to expect upon arrival and registration.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, or good morning, I should say. Once you get to the Bell County Expo, you are going to actually enter into the lobby. There will be a gentleman to meet you, Roger Bemis. If you were here last year, he was the one that helped you out. You want to make sure that you get there at your scheduled time. That way we keep the schedule going. But you will get your COVID affirmation page that you'll need to sign to just let us know that everyone you're bringing in has no COVID symptoms and that you're all well and healthy. So you'll do that there. Also, you'll be able to confirm your entries, make sure names are included, or if we've left someone off, you can add them in. This is also a place for you to make sure that you have everyone, if they want to do the jump, the tumble, if they're dropping it or they're adding it, do all of that right now as you're registering and checking in. Also, if you have a mascot, some of you sent in mascots, but we don't have a name. It would be really nice. We have the, if he's a eagle or the rally eagle or whatever, but we don't have the young person's name that is actually the mascot. So if you could provide that, that would be wonderful right there. Also, on all state nominations, there will be a place for you to fill out for your top 4 to turn those into us right there as you register. So we'll have those just already up front, then you don't have to worry about it the rest of the day. Also, if you have any young person on your team that maybe their name is not normal, like mine's Smith, really easy to say, but there are some who have some pronunciations. If you want to phonetically spell them for us, that way the announcers would be able to do those names right. That would be wonderful, and the kids would probably be really appreciative of that. Also, you bring your payment there, and you'll pay us right there at the door. Like Brian said, if you need to have us bill you, we can also do that. And so if you have any further questions on that, just contact us. And we'll get back to you on that.
When you're confirming your officers, I know some of you have already given us your officers, but make sure you give us your officers so we can give them their credit as well. That will help us all in that registration process. And then for the most part, paperwork-wise, you're through for the rest of the day. You just get to go focus on performing. So seating in the Expo Center is open seating. So once you get there, you'll be able to, it's first come, first serve. You can get there prior to your check-in time, and you can go sit in the arena and get yourself set up. We just ask that you don't go back to the check-in table ahead of time. And we do ask that while seating in the Expo Center, show a little social distancing between you and the other teams, and try not to take up a whole lot more space than you need. Sometimes that gets a little hectic there, and your fans will be able to sit wherever, either with you or they can sit away from you if they want. Rhonda?
All right. During that, you are able to have your fans come down on the floor. There will be a section down there where they can come when it's your turn to perform. They can come down there, and then they become your biggest cheerleaders. They've been your cheerleaders all year. Now they get to become yours. If you are looking for the schedules, hopefully you've all seen that. They're on the website, and it says posted on the cheer page, and Will is going to bounce us through that. If you go to the main web page, go to Fine Arts at the top. Once you go there, if you choose cheer, and then once you're there, there's a teal button that says performance schedule. You should be able to see that, and you click on it. It has both days. Up at the top, there are 2 tabs. One has your Monday schedule, and the other one has your Tuesday schedule. You have, if you'll go back, look at the first one. It's Bishop Riker. If you notice, they're going to check in at 8:30. Just go through the list, find your school, find what time you're supposed to check in, and please be on time. Then you'll be able to go to your stunt warm-up. You'll have that mat. Then you can go to your other mat to do your full warm-up, and then it has your performance time. And so this is where you can find that.
We also understand that Belton sits on that lovely corridor called Interstate 35 in the middle of Texas. So there are opportunities every day for that interstate to get shut down. Make sure you make note of our phone number here at the office, 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268. It's on the slide later on. But we will be answering the phone while we're there. So if something does occur en route or in travel, don't panic. We're going to work you through the best of our ability. But we know that over the last couple of years, I-35 has been, especially in Waco, if you're coming from the north, leave a little extra time if you're trying to get there down and back on the same day. So the schedules are there. One last thing I'll mention on the schedules, if a school does happen to drop out, if something happens and they cannot attend, we will not advance. So the schedule is pretty well set. We will just have a hole in the schedule if that does occur. Sometimes our judges appreciate that deep breath opportunity that's built into that schedule. But we hope nobody has to drop, but we certainly understand that in the event it happens, we will not advance the schedule. We will leave it as is. Rhonda, talk to us a little bit more about warm-up.
All right. Once you go into your warm-up area, you can go in, and if you're before your time, there is plenty of room around the edges for the girls to go ahead and stretch, or the cheerleaders to stretch and get ready before they go on the mats. And so you also have an opportunity to play your music. If you have issues, get it kind of worked out there. But it's going to be monitored, so be on time. That way we can move from mat to mat and go from there in your warm-ups.
Chris, tell us a little bit more, if you would. Just what can they expect in that warm-up room? I know you'll have staff over there. What can they expect? It's Chris Henson with Express Cheer, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Like Rhonda was just saying, once you get to warm-up and you check in, there's plenty of space for you to be able to stretch out with your team. Of course, that's on concrete, so cannot be stunting on that, but it's a good place where you could mark the routines, get stretched out, and then you'll actually take your time. There's a stunt mat that you'll go on. There's two 6 foot wide, 42 feet long mats that are connected together. You'll be able to warm up your stunts there, and then you move over to the 9-panel mat where you'll be able to run your full routine. And on that mat, how Rhonda was explaining, that would be your first time to check your music and make sure it's running properly. If your music works in the warm up, then it will work just fine on the competition floor. A few reminders: make sure that you have your whatever device you're playing it off, that it doesn't have a timeout feature set on it, like where your screen times out, after a minute, because that means your music will shut off. Make sure that your phone is in airplane mode, that Wi-Fi is turned off, and all those things. You don't want to get notifications and things of that nature while your team's performing. So just be aware of your technology that you're using and make sure it's set properly. Once you finish on those 9 mats in warm-up, then you'll go across over to the performance area where you'll be set up in the on deck.
So that leads us to team performance, Rhonda.
All right. Thank you, Chris, for that information. Yeah, once you've finished warming up, then you're going to come out. You will be led out to do your performances. The coaches can come down to the coach box, and you can test your music again. Like Chris said, if it worked in warm-up, it should work out here too. So then your team is going to perform, and as soon as they're finished performing this first time, then we will have them pose for a team picture. And if they can prepare ahead of time for that, to however they're going to line up, however they're going to do that, it actually is a kind of a time saver. But say, hey, we're going to pose for a picture, have that picture, and then they will exit to the back left of the banner.
Chris, anything else we need to add on the performance opportunity?
Nope. You guys have worked really hard. So on the day of the event, there's no reason for additional stress. We have staff and TAPS there to support you. So come and be ready to have fun.
One thing I will mention, and it's happened in the past, we hope it doesn't happen, we will have trainers and doctors on site, so if something does happen in the warm-up room or you have to have a change, it's happened the last couple of years, please let us know, and we will be working through that with you. So know that we have medical personnel on staff as you get ready for team performance. Again, we're trying to take all the stress we can off you. Just let the young men and young women get out there and just do their best. So, Rhonda, talk a little bit about what to expect after the performance. They're going to get their picture, then the team will move on off to stage left over there, and they will get their opportunity to review.
Yeah, what they're going to do is once they exit the performance floor, they will have an opportunity to view the video of their performance. And there's really not a critique at this time, but it's really a time for them to celebrate how awesome they just did and that they just put it all out there on the floor. And it's a time for them to see that. And then once they see how their performance went, then they're going to actually return to the stands. But there won't be a critique at that time. It's just a time for them to really celebrate their success right there on the floor. And then after that, about 30 minutes after their performance, and I'm going to ask Chris to step up here in just a second, the coaches only will be able to pick up their score sheets. Chris, you want to kind of run them through where they're going to do that and pick those up?
I think this is really important, coaches. So please make sure that you're aware of this. So after your team performs and you get to go to that kind of instant replay station, like Rhonda was describing, where the kids will get to watch their performance. And that's just, once again, an opportunity for celebration and for them to see their hard work. After that, you have about 30 minutes, give or take. There will be a booth to the left of the judges. And that is where you're going to do score pickup, as well as it's our review tent. Please, please, please come pick up your scores. That's another opportunity for you to double check your scores, make sure that they're in range, that you've been rewarded for the skills that you put on the floor. Although we're very diligent about scoring, sometimes mistakes can happen or a judge missed something. And so we want you to also be diligent in regards to your score sheet. It's also a learning opportunity. So you may believe that you should have scored in a certain range. And so that's not a challenge tent. It's a review tent, an opportunity for education. So there'll be someone at that review tent that will be able to talk to you. They'll be able to do a replay of your routine again, where you can double check and make sure that everything is good as you're preparing for your finals. You'll also be looking for an email that you'll receive, and that will have a judge's verbal critique over the top of your performance. So just to recap, your kids get to watch an instant replay when they come off the floor. You're going to receive an email that has a judge's commentary that's going to give you some feedback about what they saw. Then, as well as, you're going to pick up your score sheets and have the opportunity to do an additional review. That's also what TAPS is referring to as that clinician opportunity. So it is imperative that you come pick up your score sheets and take that opportunity to talk to whomever's at that review tent, so that you have all the pieces in preparation for finals.
Hey, Chris, that person that's at the review tent, they won't be actually judging or scoring the event. So they're there to answer questions, help them walk through. And you and I have talked about it a few times. I think that's also an opportunity, especially between the first performance and the second performance, to make those changes if possible and make some adaptations to again, increase your score for that second round. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, absolutely. So that person that's at that station is not scoring. However, if there is a legality issue or a safety issue, or you have specific questions, we do have legality and safety judges that we can have come off the panel that can answer any of your questions. But yeah, like Brian was explaining, that's an opportunity to just make sure your routine is tip top to where it needs to be. Reminder that this is about the kids. We want them to be rewarded for their hard work. So in prelims, if there is a safety infraction or there's a legality, we're going to err on the side of the athletes, and they're going to get a warning. And that means that you have an opportunity to try to fix it. Performance error versus blatant breaking of the rules. If you do something in that category, let's say you're not able to do a certain skill like stunting, that is a blatant rule that you're breaking. So there will be a deduction that's assessed for that. But if it's a performance error, so let's say, for example, you have 3 stunt groups that go up in the air, and at least one of those 3 stunt groups performs the stunts legally, we're going to assume that the athletes were taught correctly, but 2 of the groups just made a mistake. So we're going to err on that side. They'll give you the correction going into finals. And as long as those groups then perform it correctly, then you wouldn't be assessed a deduction. But if you perform it incorrectly after you've been told how to fix it, you would be assessed a deduction. So once again, it's imperative that you go. So the last sheet of your score packet is going to be legality and safety. So, and also deductions. So for me as a coach, that's usually where I would always flip to first to make sure we didn't have any infractions or breaking of the rules. And then if we do, immediately want to address that. And then secondly, I then would flip back to my other pages where I would make sure that we're in range. So I know that if I did the appropriate number of jumps and there was variety that I should be scoring a certain score, I'm going to double check that to make sure that I was rewarded for all that. So just be very diligent. Remember, there's a time that's attached to this. So because we are moving quickly throughout the day, you've got to come to that score pickup, pick it up, and then you have 10 minutes from that point to be able to address any issues. Because after that, it's going to be, that score is going to be set for the day and there won't be changes made to it. So be very diligent about making sure you come to that review area.
So to kind of piggyback on that, if you go to that schedule that Rhonda showed you on the website, it does have a time to pick up your score sheet. So kind of plan your day around that and make sure you're there. Chris, we did have a quick question. It says, if we have questions about a skill legality, can we check beforehand to make sure no deductions occur? Can they send us something by email or whatever ahead of time? Can they check ahead of time? Kind of walk me through that if there's a possibility there.
It needs to be sent in prior to the event. So this week you should be sending those in. You can send them to Rhonda and she can get them to me. And then we can send you an official. So here's a note. If you have anything that you think is in question, send it in. And then once you receive your response, you need to keep your original video and the response that went to that. Because on the day of the event, if they assess a deduction, you can bring that communication and say, I sent this in and I was told it was legal. Remember that it has to be performed exactly the way it was in your video. So if there's any variation from what you got approved to what you actually perform, that becomes null and void. So just once again, be diligent about the process and making sure that you're taking care of your athletes.
We were also talking, we had another question about deductions, and basically the idea is once the teams are through with their signs, palms, and flags, can they be moved off the mat without a deduction? So can items such as that they've used for props be placed off the mat after they're used during the routine without deduction, or do they have to be on the mat at the end of the performance?
So actually, also, I'll just answer on both sides. Your props, your flags, palms, signs, etc., could actually be laid off the floor at the beginning as well. Like, so they could be right on the perimeter of the outside of the floor. Your athlete just can't exit the floor. So they can reach over and pick up a prop in the beginning of the performance. And then once they're done with that prop can also be sat on the outskirts of the floor as well. But they cannot be stepping on and off the floor to get that prop. So it's a reach with their hands. That's fine. Just a reminder, because we follow NFHS and ACA. So make sure that you're aware of props, like they can't be thrown. So like a sign can't be thrown from the top of a stunt. It can't be flicked across the floor. Those are safety hazards. So just be aware of how you're using those props and double check your NFHS and your ACA rules.
I would say that was where I was headed, because we have seen that done in the past and we have had to take deductions. So I'm glad you covered that ahead of time. If you have questions about the legalities, email us at info@taps.biz. Rhonda will get those to Chris. So info, if you're going to send a video, info@taps.biz. We're going to move on forward. Rhonda, let's talk about the posting of the first round scores and what that's going to look like.
Thank you, Chris, for all that good information. Just to piggyback on that for very quickly, as an educator for 27 years, anytime you can get something that you can get a critique and you can get better and it's an educational experience for you and your kids, definitely take advantage of that. Once you have seen all of that and all of your division has been finished and every division's scores they've been verified and double checked and all of that good kind of stuff, once they are done, then we will actually post them on the website. You can go, if just like Will did a moment ago, we went to Fine Arts, went to cheer, and then once you're on that cheer page, we have a button that says preliminary results right there in the purple. I think if you click on it now, it's last year's results, so you can kind of see how it's going to look. I'm not positive, but that is where you would go to see your preliminary scores. All right. Okay, now we're going to move on to your second performance, which you are going to do the same routine that you just got critiqued for. So you're going to do the same routine, stretch and warm up. There's a schedule on there to follow again, just like there was for the prelims. You will perform, but after your second performance, there will not be a team picture. So they don't have to worry about setting up again and doing another picture. That was only on the first performance. Then once we have finished all the divisions and their performances, we will have the fun part, and we will do the mascot performances. They will have their time to set up, and they are only performing one time, and so you make it a great time for them. And then at the end of the mascot performances, we will actually give out mascot awards at that time. So just know that they need to stay close, because they'll be called back out, and then they will be given their awards.
One thing, Chris, if you could hit us real quick, because the mascots and the individual skills come after the team, when and where do you see them warming up? Walk us through that a little bit if you could.
Mascots will be able to do their warm-up in the warm-up room, just like every other athlete did. And then the same will be true for, there'll be an open warm-up that's happening in that warm-up area as well, for tumbling and stunts. So they'll be able to go through that same process.
So pay attention to the stadium announcer. He'll be announcing, hey, it's open for warm-ups or whatever. I think we did that a couple of times last year and got them over. And then they'll be brought over to the arena, kind of to the backstage pre-staging area before they come out. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, sir.
All right, then we will go through the individual performances. We have jumps, tumbling, and then we'll do the stunt groups. Okay, and so make sure you're listening for when they call you, because you'll assemble back and then you will be performing. And then after each of those individual performances are done, we will present awards at that time. So then, keep them close so they'll know if they are the winners. So then we're going to move on. Then after everything is totally finished, we will go into the team awards. And like last year, we're still in COVID. We only had the coaches come down last year, and we gave them the awards for the teams. This year, we're going to allow the coaches and their captains to come down when we go to do team awards. So we're going to add a little bit so you can have the captains that have been the leaders of your team. And then we will do team awards. Each team that received a superior rating will receive a plaque for that. So if you get that Division I superior rating, then you will be given that plaque. Also, in the division awards, so you've got your Division 1 through 6, you'll have a champion, you'll have a runner-up, you'll have a third place, and a fourth place. So those will all be presented while your coaches and your captains are down on the floor. The other awards that will be handed out during that time will also be your all-state teams, which you gave us your nominations at the beginning when you came in, and this is where these will be determined. We'll have a first team, second team, honorable mention, but then we also gave the individual skills, the jump, tumbling, and then also your mascots will get their awards. So those are all the individual awards that can be received by members of your team. Then moving on to the end and posting everything at the end will be at the cheer page, just like we've done before at the taps.biz. We'll go to Fine Arts again, cheer, and then we will have a button that says championship results. And I think that's the button that has last year. So if you want to see the form that it's going to be in, that's last year's. But those will be taken off, and then we will be posting this year's awards.
So the champion results will be posted fairly quickly after the event. So hopefully by the time you get home, we'll have them up. We'll definitely have them up before we head home the next day. So championship results, you'll have your preliminary results. Once all of your division are concluded, they'll all show up there. And then the champion results will also be up there once we get done. So it'll all come back to cheer, and then our social media will piggyback off of that, which brings us to the event media.
Okay, we also, for all of our event media, we have TAPS photos, which is on we'll have it on, it's called Smug Mug, and as soon as the event is over, John usually gets those posted and put up on there for you to get and download, or you can buy them. Also, TAPS TV Network is a place where you can see, if you go on our main website and go down to the very bottom right, you can see TAPS TV. Click on that and you can watch it live. And then we have all of our social media. We have Twitter, we have Facebook and Instagram. And if you take any pictures, we'd love for you to tag us so that we know your pictures are there, and then we can see that you're at the event, and we'll do that. And our Twitter is at TAPS Cheer. At TAPS Cheer. So make sure you share those pictures with us so that we can get that out there. The next thing we're going to talk about will be your fan information.
So we'll jump over to the TAPS website. Go to that homepage for me. When you go to the homepage at taps.biz, up at the top right-hand side, it says 2021 Cheer Championship Fan Info. When you click on that, it'll have all the information for your fans. We'll be sending this link in an email out to you and ask you to forward that to your moms, dads, and fans. So, again, it is at the Bell County Expo Center. We'll have the parking map ready. The schedule's there. It is $15 daily admission. It will only be through TAPS tickets, so we're not accepting cash or credit cards. You can either purchase the tickets online ahead of time, or you can do it once you arrive on site. We'll have the QR codes to assist you, so no cash or credit cards accepted at the gate. The TAPS annual passes, if you have principals or administrators, coaches, whatever, that are going to come as well, the TAPS annual passes will be accepted at the gate. The competition program will be linked there once we get it completed. Concessions will be on site. Floor access, again, the fans are not allowed on the floor prior to or after the competition, but they can come to the designated floor area during your team's performance. Handheld signs and banners are great. We love the activity. We love the spirit, but you can't attach them to anything. So make sure that you don't attach streamers or banners or flags. Just they have to be handheld, I guess, the easiest way. There has always been a question, can you bring noisemakers? It's an indoor opportunity, so we want you to cheer loud. We would prefer, as prohibited activities, no air horns or those kind of things, cowbells, etc. Don't want to see those. It should be all that opportunity. Again, it'll be on the TAPS TV network. Our photos, the links are all there in live. And then Team IP will be on site with TAPS memorabilia. So share that link. It looks like it's going to be great weather outside. We don't have to worry about rain when you come in or colder rain when you go back out. So I think we're okay. Robert, I know we've got a few questions. We've gone pretty quick through things. If you'll hit us with a couple of these things, some of them Chris may have to step in. On the rest, I'll try to answer them on our side as well.
All right, we do have one question here. Chris, if you could go back to our warm-up area, there was a little bit of confusion. How much time on the mats for each warm-up? You mentioned 2 mats and then a 9 mat. Are they warming up their stunts and their warm-up for their team at the same time, or are those separate times? I think that's the question we're getting.
Let me pull up that schedule really quickly. You'll see it says warm-up stunt on the schedule. And that says, so for example, the first team warms up at 9:30, and then their next mat's at 9:36. So that would let you know that you have 6 minutes on that mat. So it's 6 minutes on each warm-up station. There's 2 warm-up stations. They're separate from each other. The first station is going to be your stunt mats. So there's 2 mats that are connected right there, 2 physical mats. Those are where you're going to stunt. You have 6 minutes there. Then you'd move to the full mat, which is the 9, just like a competition floor. You'd have another 6 minutes to be able to run your routine there. It's completely up to you how you utilize those mats. Even though it says stunt, if you want to stretch on that mat, that's your 6 minutes. If you want to stunt on that mat, that's your 6 minutes. If you want to jump on that mat, that's your 6 minutes. You want to tumble on those 2 strips, that's your 6 minutes. Then you'll move to the full mat. That's the one that you're going to be able. So when we say full, we mean 9 mats, just like the competition floor. And that's where you would have the opportunity to be running your music. You can jump, stunt, tumble, dance. You can do your routine full out, cheer, do everything you want there. So basically, you have 2 stations, 6 minutes at each one, and then you rotate from there over to the performance area where you would be staged for on deck and get ready to actually compete.
So there's a little extra time built in between that full warm-up and performance because we do have to come from one building to the other and get you backstage for the pre-stage. So, Robert?
Right.
Question about the scoring. Is there somewhere we can look up the rating score ranges? For example, what score is needed to be awarded a superior rating? How does that work?
It's going to be in the TAPS bylaws, so we will send out a quick email reminding everybody where those are and where those rubrics are located.
All right, we have a question about spotters. Are there spotters on the competition floor? If not, should or can we provide our own? If so, are there any specifics on dress code?
I can answer that, and then Brian, you can piggyback. This is Chris.
Yep.
That's also in your TAPS bylaws. It explains that you provide spotters, and it does have specifics about what they should be wearing. They're not supposed to be in a cheerleading uniform. They're supposed to look like they're not part of the team, but not drawing attention to themselves. But it's all in the bylaws. We as TAPS and as an event producer are not providing spotters on the floor. We're not intimate with your routine, so we would not want to be in the middle of that and potentially like be in the way of a stunter or someone that's tumbling or whatever the case may be. So you provide your own spotters, but once again, you would need to go back and reference the bylaws for TAPS.
Again, I think the big thing is they're not in the same cheerleading uniform, that they are dressed appropriately. And again, we'll send an email out recapping both of those first 2 questions, Robert.
I think that caught most of them. If there are specific ones, as we've mentioned, about a routine, about specific things, your music, your routine, all that, reach out to us. Rhonda can help you walk through those. We don't want to get too deep into detail in some of these because it may confuse some of our other competitors. I don't see any other big ones. Brian, do you see any more on there?
I know there was a question earlier, and it came across, can you have somebody film be up on the upper deck and film the performance? Yes, you can, but they can't live stream it. So there's a difference between you filming it for a record. Obviously, you're going to get the live stream that Chris and his crew are doing. That's going to be shared with you. You can have a parent or somebody film it, but you cannot live stream it. So it doesn't need to be on Twitch. It doesn't need to be on Facebook Live. It doesn't need to be anywhere. So if you're just filming it, that's fine, but you can't send it out through any social media or whatever. The only asset there is owned by TAPS. And then there was another quick question that came up with the music adapters. So, Chris, I know everybody freaks out a little bit about music. So we'll have the music adapters at both the warm-up room and the performance area. So, again, I think Chris said it right. If it works in one area in the warm-up room, we're pretty much certain it's going to work in the performance area.
One more thing, we've referenced, Will, right quick, could you jump just to the main website? We're not going to go to the bylaws, but we've referenced the TAPS bylaws. Just want to show you how to find those. You're on the main TAPS page. Up at the top it says bylaws. We won't click on that, but if you click on that, it'll take you to our governance page, and the cheer bylaws are found in section 260. So they're at the very, very bottom of our bylaws. That's where you would go. Click on that bylaws section, scroll all the way down to section 260. That has answers to your specific questions about your routine, timing, and those kinds of things that you might have. Certainly you can reach out and Rhonda can assist you in that.
We've had a couple of questions about fees. It's been posted. It's on the, Will, click on the Fine Art tab for me. If you go up the very top, it says Fine Art Fees on that red line. If you click on that and then drop down, it's going to show you that on the cheer, it's $25 per individual entry. So if they're going to do the jumps, et cetera, your small stunt group is $100. And if you're doing an exhibition squad, it's $100. And there is an additional $20 per student collected at event. So if you have a 10-person cheer squad, it's going to be an extra $200 when you get there. We will help you with the math. Again, if you've already got your check request done and you're ready to go, bring the money with you. If you need help, we will also be happy to bill you once we get through. So we're looking forward to a great opportunity. I've looked back through, Robert, a couple of opportunities here to see if there's anything else that's not too in-depth. We have a couple of questions that we're going to have to actually individually email back, and I think it's going to be good to go. We are looking forward to fans. I know last year it was a little hesitant, but we're looking forward to a full house. We look forward to everybody being there. If you have questions, info at taps.biz, info@taps.biz. Quick way to get to us. One of us will jump on the email, 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268. Utilize that website, www.taps.biz. Follow us along on the Twitter. Follow us along on Facebook. Follow us along on SmugMug, as we do have our professional photographers there to take the pictures. They're free for you to download. You could purchase if you wanted prints, but they're also free for download and free for your use later. I will close this out with one thing. We've had this concern with every event we do. Remember, no live animals, no dogs, no cats, no chipmunks, no whatever that come to the events. So service dogs would obviously, as long as they have the proper paperwork and adapter for your fans, would be okay. But just make sure that help your fans ahead of time. It's always tough when Grandma shows up with the dog and she has to take the dog back out to the car while you're performing. Kind of a tough situation for us. We did have one question. I'll throw it out there and then we'll follow it up. I just saw it come across. Was about food. We're going to follow up. Last year they were very tight at the Expo Center on outside food and drink. We're trying to negotiate, see if you can eat inside. Otherwise, if you want to set up, it's going to be nice weather. If you wanted to set up more like a picnic area or canopy or whatever to feed your young ladies outside and young gentlemen outside, that would be greatness. So we're looking forward to it. Chris, I'll throw it to you. Any last questions or comments as we get ready to lead this webinar?
None for me. Just show up and let's have fun.
We are very excited to be back. TAPS Cheer 2021. Rhonda, any last thoughts you have before we bail?
Nope, just y'all come ready to have a good time. And if you have any questions, definitely reach out and let me know, and get your rosters in today if you haven't already, and get me your pictures. That's huge because we've got to go to print for the programs. But other than that, we're ready to have a good time.
We look forward to seeing you. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. John, lead us on out of here.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Chris, for joining us remotely. Thank you, Rhonda and Robert and Will. Thank you, folks, for being here today. A couple of things I want to plug before we go. We've got a podcast, Taps Talk, and we've got two episodes, on the cheer competition. Episode 6 from last year, it has in-depth interviews with several of our coaches. We've got sound from the event. There's a lot of material there. That's a great kind of inspiration thing to get you going. And then we've got one that we actually made on the floor of last year's competition with an interview with Chris, and that is episode 11. You can find those podcasts anywhere that you find podcasts, or at taps.biz/talk. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search for Taps Talk. Those episodes are there. And if we've got time, we might grab you for an interview. We're always looking for more material to get some episodes out. We're sitting on a bunch right now, but we'd like to get some more from our fine arts folks out there. And again, our photographs will be on, there's a link on the Taps cheer page. They are free to download, or you can order prints if you like, but you don't have to. It's going to take us a couple of days to get those up. We'll be coming off of football, but we have brought in an extra floor photographer to help me out. So we'll cover everything and we'll have it there. Just please be patient with us because we're coming up on the Christmas holiday, and we'll get that out as soon as we can. This recording will be made available to you later this afternoon. We're going to send it to the same email address that you used to register for this webinar, but it's also going to be on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/tapsbiz. And again, for those of you who had the more in-depth questions, please send us an email right now, info@taps.biz, and we'll get those answered for you. And with that, I'm going to close it. Thank you, folks, and we'll see you next week.